Good morning, campers. I've come down to the side of the dam for breakfast. I think you can see there's a few midges and mozzies around. Quite enjoying my company this morning, they are. There's me set up, ready to do breakfast. Quite an eventful night. You probably won't be able to pick that up, but yeah, you can. I think there's a couple of lights in the trees over there. That's some people just arriving for an early morning walk. So try and avoid those. But yeah, I had quite an eventful night. I'll talk about that a little bit later, just to show you, like, yeah, I'm down here now for breakfast. I would have said I did have the place to myself. A few people just walking on, but it's pretty cloudy again. But a lovely morning nonetheless, and great to be down here for breakfast. So yeah, welcome to day 2. I'll show you the campsite shortly, as soon as it gets a bit lighter, and we'll go from there. Okay, so it's not much later, but it's brightened up a lot, so hopefully you can see better where I'm at. Beautiful location, and Derwent Reservoir. The water is unbelievably low. I don't think I've ever seen it this low. Didn't realise we'd had quite such a dry summer, but apparently so, unless it's some sort of water management that they're doing. Anyway, yeah, I've just done breakfast there. I haven't eaten it as yet. I'm just letting it cool a little bit, the coffee, and I will just show you around this area. I was seriously tempted to camp down here last night. You can see obviously the tree line there and such, so it looks pretty protected, pretty sheltered, but the road is just up through those trees, and you can see down here from the road. Now once it's gone dark, obviously, which it was going dark when I got here, you'd think you'd be alright, but as I said, there was someone with a flashlight last night, shining both up into the trees where I am. I'll show you that shortly after breakfast, and also down here. I don't know how much you can see of that, but yeah, the road's just up there. But I'm obviously not the first person to have had the idea of camping down here, which would be why they arrived and were looking for people. Just have a look at this. Now, someone's obviously had a fire here, and someone's obviously got a lot of wood ready and such to do another one. I suspect their camp was disrupted because they were seen and didn't get to enjoy the night that they should have done. 2 things to learn from that. One is, don't be doing this. If you're new to this scene and you think it's a good idea to turn up and have a campfire, then basically you're wrong. Leave the place as you see it. Leave no trace is the motto of a responsible stealth camper. You should leave the place as you find it. Don't be building fires. 1, you'll get caught. 2, you shouldn't be doing it anyway. So just please don't do it. If you do, you're an idiot. It's people like you that causes people like that last night to come out with flashlights trying to find people like me. So you're spoiling it for the rest of us. So that's my morning rant over. And just one other little thing on that as well. I did wonder what that was last night. See, I could see that from the road. It's an helium balloon. I'll take that down before I go. Excuse me, pop that in a bin somewhere. But I'll just show you another one of our wonderful friends out here enjoying this beautiful location as thought to do. There we go, signs of another little fire somebody's had. Don't do it. And another one. Just destroying the area. And then someone's left a nice little bag of rubbish there. too far back to the car park to do anything about it, obviously. Disgusting. Anyway, rant over, back to breakfast, and I'll show you the campsite shortly. Right, so over there's where I'm having breakfast. I have no idea what that is. I'm sure someone out there does. If you do, please let me know. Drop us a comment in the comments boxes. Yeah, I'm intrigued as to what that was. It sort of looks like it could have been some sort of bridge, but that's normally underwater now. Don't know. I will just say at this point as well, the area where I'm camping is the old navvy town. It was called Tin Town when they were building the reservoirs up here. You can probably make out the other one up there, the upper reservoir, and then there's this one, and then the Lady Bower at the bottom, so 3 reservoirs. So obviously a lot of work involved in that, and they built a small town just up through the trees where I'm camping. I'll show you later. I'm actually camping in the middle of what was called Tin Town. Most of the buildings were made of corrugated steel. So Tin Town, whether this has anything to do with that, I don't know. Obviously quite a lot of work went into building that, and that's normally underwater now, as I say. So yeah, if you know what that is, please let me know. Be very interested to find out. Okay, so that's the way I've come. You can probably see the light down there. That's the reservoir, and this is where I'm camping. Oh, I've camped. See the tent down there. As the notice board says there, Tin Town, and shows you one of the houses. We're now in the married quarters. This area was set aside for navvies with families. Navvies is what they called the people that worked here. Navvies has a reputation for hard drinking, rough lifestyle. As the Derwent Valley Water Board opened, the presence of their families helped to moderate this. The greengrocers and other shops were further along the track. So basically you've got this terrace that I'm camped on over there. And then you can see it drops down to the next terrace and the road through. So basically 2 or 3 streets they had running through here. Now when I say road there, that road ends in about, I don't know, a quarter of a mile, half a mile that way. It comes to a dead end. Just turns into a track then that's you can walk on, you can ride on, you can cycle or walk all the way around these dams. But that's not a road that was used in the night at all. I did hear a couple of cars after I got settled down at 8 o'clock. But when I say a couple, literally maybe 2 cars. Now, when I was setting up tent there, as I said, there was a flashlight down here. I heard a noise and saw the light. And they were shining down onto the area down there where the idiots have had or tried to have the fires. And also up into the trees here. So I'm very glad I set myself back a little bit there, because this banking wouldn't be able to see me. So that's a little tip for you there if you're wild camping, stealth camping. It's always better to go up than down if you're worried about being seen. More difficult to see you. Nobody was going to see that from the road without actually coming up here, whereas just looking over the edge there and shining down to that area, you could get found quite easily. So that was the campsite. Had a decent night, got off quite early. There's no phone reception here, so couldn't watch any videos or anything, so I sorted out some of my photos and emails, spent a bit of time doing that. Fairly uneventful night. Had a couple of visits from a couple of little critters. Don't know what they were, but I could hear them scurrying about outside at different times. A couple of owls having a bit of a scream off. About 5 o'clock this morning woke me up, and we had a bit of rain in the night. But apart from that, all good. So yeah, I'm going to get the tent up and make a move. Today, as I say, is going to be a day about a little bit of sightseeing, show you some of the sights. This is the white peak of the Peak District, so I'm heading for Edale, Castleton, and a nice little treat would be Winnet's Pass. I may well cycle Winnet's Pass. I don't know whether I'll cycle up it or down it, but it's a treat either way, so I'll show you that. Catch you later. Right, so that's me packed up and ready for off. I've got to say, the midges are here again. I feel like I've lost weight with the amount they've eaten of me today, rather than put on weight from eating breakfast. But there we go. Life's never perfect. No complaints. That's where I was camped. And that, for you idiots that come out here lighting fires and leaving your rubbish behind and everything, is how you should leave a campsite. Apart from a little bit of flat in the grass, nobody would know I was here, and that's exactly the way that it should be. Right, so I'm heading back down to Derwent. I'll talk to you a little bit about the dams as well. There's a bit of history to these dams. The Dam Busters, if you're aware of those, if you've heard of them, seen the film. They trained here, so I'll show you a bit of information on that. And there's a cafe and a visitor centre down here. You can hire a bike, so if you were coming out here for the day or anything, a great ride is to hire a bike down there and then ride. As I said, you can ride all the way around the dams, so it's a great sort of couple of hours ride. So yeah, I'll catch you back down at the dam. Right, so here we are then, there's the dam. Now, as I say, this dam was used in training for the Dam Busters Squadron during World War II, the famous bouncing bombs. Is it 647 Squadron? I know there's a notice board further down, but I haven't read that as yet. But yeah, they were doing practicing with the bouncing bombs to bomb that there dam. I'm going to say it again, I can't get over how low this water is. Normally when I've been here, the water actually runs over between the two towers, and you can see it's a long way down. Now further down on the bottom dam, Ladybower, a part of that, there was a village that was flooded when they made the dam, the reservoir. So when the water's low like this, you can often see it. I've got to say, I didn't notice it yesterday as coming up, but you can often see some of the remains of that. So I'll stop there on the way back through and see if we can see any of that. But yeah, that's Derwent Dam. They do a flyover by a Lancaster bomber once a year to commemorate it, and I was lucky enough once to see that. Not on the actual day of the flyover. Must have been doing a practice run, a training run, and I got to see the Lancaster flying over here, which was something special. I can hear an aeroplane now, but I doubt very much it's the Lancaster. I suspect it's something on its way either from or to Manchester Airport. Yeah, Derwent Dam, beautiful location, and great to almost have it to myself. It's going to get very busy here later, so I think I'm here at the right time. Right, unfortunately we have a technical problem. If you can see that, the stops come off there. I think it might be worth me going back to the campsite and having a look, see if it's up there. It's obviously shaken off at some point. The brakes will work, but it's not really safe. There's some good hills around here. I certainly shan't be riding down Winnet's Pass with brakes like that. So we'll see what we can do. Right, so this is back at the campsite. You can just see where the tent was, because as I said, the grass has flattened, so the bike was folded and sort of there. No sign of it there. I did sort of lean it against this tree to load it up. I'm pretty confident it was still on the bike when I arrived yesterday, or I would have noticed, I'm sure. So I think the only thing I can do is retrace my steps again, or my wheels. Slowly bike down the road and see if I can see where it's come off. I did go over a cattle grid, a lot of vibration there, so if it was loose, maybe that's where it shook off. So yeah, I'm just going to retrace my steps and see if I can find it. Right, so that's me back at the Dam Busters sign. As you can see, I've retraced my steps, obviously all the way back to the campsite, and then walked back down, checking the side of the road. Can't see it anywhere. And I think I've got problems. Puts it into perspective a little bit. So I'm at the visitor centre, the car park at Fairholmes. There's toilets there, and the kiosk is open. So I treat myself to a sausage and bacon butty there, and it's sort of just gone 9 o'clock, and I think at 9:30 the bike hire shop, which is just behind the kiosk there, opens. So I'm going to hang around, wait till they open. They might just have a nut to fit that. A nut would do it. It's not the proper part, obviously, but if I can get a nut on there, then I can keep the adventure going. So we'll see what we can do. That really wasn't difficult. Right, so here we go, look at that. We have a nut fitted.
Ooh, that's a Schmidt Dynamo hub, yeah.
By this kind chap here, Rowan, at the bike hire shop at, it's Fairholmes, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
At Fairholmes. So, yeah, got us out of trouble and keeps us on the road. How good's that? Thanks, Rowan.
Yeah.
So, there's the information board telling you about the village that was here, Derwent Village. A few photos and a bit of information on the village. It was a very old village, dating back, I think, to Doomsday, and that is where it was. I'm quite surprised. I have passed this way before when the water's been low, and you can see some of the walls and such from the village, but nothing to be seen today. But yeah, under there is the remains of what was a village, flooded to provide water for the city of Sheffield. Okay, so that to my left is Loose Hill, which is one end of what's called the Great Ridge, which if you follow it along there to the peak you can see at the other end of that series of peaks is Mam Tor. So it's Loose Hill, which is above the village of Hope where I've just come through. I'm now on the road to Edale, and that is the Great Ridge. There's a walking path across the top of there, which is pretty spectacular. Brilliant views, obviously down both sides there into Hope Valley and Castleton, Hope, and at this side along and up to Edale. So yeah, the Great Ridge on the road to Edale. Okay, so obviously from that view I think you can see I'm still on the same road. That's just opened the view up of the ridge beautifully. Morning. Yeah. As I was saying, that had opened the view up of the ridge beautifully, but doesn't look like it's lasted too long. Coming into Edale shortly, as I say, I'm not sure what my plans are, to be honest. I'm tempted to maybe stay another night. On the other hand, I've got to be back relatively early tomorrow, out for a meal with my mum for her birthday. So need to think about that as well. So yeah, not sure yet how I'm going to do things. I may inquire. There's a campsite at Edale that I wouldn't mind using. Never stayed there before, but it's a National Trust campsite, and I do believe they have a quiet policy. So there's some sort of rowdy groups there, drinking and partying until the early hours. I was awake about 5 this morning, at 5:30, 6 o'clock, sort of got up and started to make moves for breakfast, so I really don't want to be listening to drunken revelry this evening. It's one of the reasons why I don't normally stay on campsites. Edale Youth Hostel up the lane there. I did stay there once. That was a nice stop, I got to say. Enjoyed that. I think I'm just coming into the village shortly now, so right, so here I am just coming into the village of Edale. Gagging for a coffee.
Yeah, literally.
Busy spot.
We'll find it. You come through. I've never been through.
Very busy.
Taste of it?
No.
Yeah. This is not for me, even if they've got a place on the campsite, which is unlikely. I prefer to be a bit off the beaten path. I think if I was coming here, I'd come midweek when it's quieter. That's the campsite I was going to try. Field Ed. Cheers. The old Nag's Head Hikers Bar, official start of the Pennine Way. Pennine Way is the first and one of the longest long distance footpaths in Britain. Goes from here to over the border in Scotland, place Kirk something or other. Right, I'm going to find a seat and brew a coffee.
You're single for that. I've got plans.
I love this stove. Literally takes about 2 minutes to boil. Instant coffee, just what I need. Okay, so I'm just on the hill outside of Edale, heading up towards Mam Tor and the Great Ridge. There's Edale down in the valley. You can probably see that there. And you get another view of the Great Ridge along there to Loose Hill, along that one, and cutting up the road here obviously, and through a little pass at the side of Mam Tor. Takes you just side of the peak of Mam Tor. Mam Tor, also known as the Shivering Mountain, because it's subject to landslides on the other side. At the top of Mam Tor as well is a really large Iron Age hill fort. It was a settlement back in the day. So yeah, that's my route now. I've cycled to here, but I think this next section is going to be a little bit of hike a bike and pushing for a while. No shame in pushing. Right, one last look down this side of the valley there, down to Edale. At the bottom, the road I've come up, where the cloud is on the hill there, that's Kinder Scout. Very well known hill, great bikepacking spot, wild camping spot by all accounts. Never been up there, certainly not something I could do on the Brompton, but yeah, I have pushed up a good way on this here hill. I've ridden it on a normal bike, full size bike, but not with all the gear on like I've got now on the Brompton. And then you can see there where the road just cuts through the little pass there. That's Mam Tor on the end of the Great Ridge. I say the end, I think actually it does carry on along there, although I've never done that section. I have walked that section many times. So yeah, we'll get up to the top there and have a look for a view down the other side. You might find this view familiar. I'll explain why in a moment. So there's Mam Tor. So I'm now the other side of it. There's the view down Castleton at the bottom there, the village. The cement works always stands out. I said you might find that view familiar. and that's because the Great Ridge and the view down there into the Hope Valley is featured on Channel 4's, I don't know what it's called there, sort of promotional bit in between, with the big giant number 4 walking along the Great Ridge and looking out over the Hope Valley. If I can, I'll put a little clip of that on. Oh, just to add to that, there's Winnett's Pass. So I shall be riding down there very shortly. I had to stop here because that's a great view of the Great Ridge, excuse the pun, and the top of Mam Tor there, which you can see quite clearly. Quite busy up there. Don't know if you got that with the traffic. Quite busy up there, and you can see the earthworks with the Iron Age hill fort up there. It's quite a sight. Here we are then in the beautiful village of Castleton, side of the river that flows through. Quite a few ducks being fed there. Okay, so this is on the road out of Castleton towards the village of Hope. Just watch for this white car approaching from behind. You can see him coming up the road there quite fast. What he should have done at that point is just held back and wait, but this is what he actually did. Yeah, squeezed through. Wasn't room to pass safely at all there. Thanks a lot for that, my friend. Typical of what we have to put up with, unfortunately. Well, I couldn't finish one of my little adventures without having a beer, could I? Didn't have time to pick any up last night for the normal evening drink, so there we go. It says John Smith's, but it's actually Farmer's Brown Cow from Bradfield Brewery, one of my favourites. So there we go. Pint of Farmer's at the Old Hotel in Hope Village in the Hope Valley. And at this point I'm going to sign off. I'm heading to Hope Station where I'll pick the train up back to Sheffield. I thoroughly enjoyed that, the little adventure this morning, a little bit of a panic. Got nicely sorted thanks to the chap there at the cycle shop. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the journey with me. I certainly have. If you have, give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.